Anina Nant asks, I have a question about the last slide where you mentioned opportunity to work with other foundations. Does it have to be a foundation, or can it be another community organization, such as a university, nonprofit, community networks, etc.?
Great question, and that is, you've asked a question about one of the things that has been most challenging in some sense about this program, and one in which I think we've evolved our thinking and we've gotten more and more clear. When this program initially became national, we were really adamant in our minds, and by our I mean both Community Foundations of Canada and the existing participating foundations, that we needed to be really careful to connect this brand, to oversimplify, of Vital Signs with only community foundations, and that we wanted to go really, be really firm that Vital Signs was a community foundation program, and for that reason we were really quite insistent that community foundations only needed to be associated as leaders or owners of the program, which isn't to say that others couldn't be helpers and thanked and all that stuff, but we were quite firm. Where we've evolved to now, in part because we've understood that in smaller communities in particular, both from a capacity side, but also just in terms of honoring the existing relationships and arrangements, that partnership often makes a bit more sense. We've evolved a bit, and the way we've left it now is that we have some pretty clear guidelines around what those partnerships can look like, but they are allowable, and that we really actually recommend a one-on-one conversation before you embark between yourself and me to kind of just talk it through about what do you have in mind, what would it look like, some of the detailed bits about logos and all that kind of stuff. But in general, the answer to your question is that yes, you can work in partnership. We just will push you to maintain a fair bit of control and ownership, but we understand that in order to meaningfully work in partnership, you're going to have to be genuine that this is in fact a partnership. So I guess the short answer is yes, but I can give you more information about that, and I also encourage you to give me a bit, to have a direct conversation with me on the specifics of what you're thinking about.
I think it's to your advantage to make it your own anyway. That's the strength of Vital Signs.
It's your advantage, but in some cases it's just not. It's not really an option.
Right.
Okay. David Roach is asking, what is the annual duration of the work?
Well, it's all year round, and I say that because one of the things that we have been that we're clear on now is that Vital Signs is not a report, it's a program, and that in its best iteration, Vital Signs is in an annual cycle that runs from October to October, where the report is issued in October, and from that comes the response from the community, the response from the foundation, the integration into the rest of your work, including your granting and your development, etc. So it's really, it becomes interwoven into the whole fabric of your foundations, all of your foundation's activities. However, to be a bit more specific about when the time crunches of Vital Signs are, most of the hard work on the report itself takes place between May and October, so over the summer months, which can be challenging. I would say there's a little bit of a crunch at the end, usually in August and September, as foundations try to get into print or publication in whatever way they're publishing. What's been your experience, Don?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the nail. You hit it right on the head. The time frame is the summer and early fall.
Okay. Paul Schachter asks, what is your view on doing a full Vital Signs report only every 2 or 3 years and doing a briefer update in the intervening years?
I think that if that is a good fit with your foundation's resources and capacity, and in some cases also the availability of data and updates to data, I actually think it's not a bad idea. I think that every time you publish a full report, you get a certain boost in all the ways that we talked about vital signs benefiting. So you get the benefit of that detailed knowledge, you get the benefit of the communications value, the profile raising, all of that. But I think that to do that at the expense of having the time and the money to do other things under the vital signs banner, so for example, community convening, community leadership activities, grant making, all of those sort of things, I think those are also part of the Vital Signs program. And so what I think we see evolving, particularly for small foundations, is that they'll publish a full report in 1 year, and then the next year they'll keep the energy up and the profile up by following on with activities. And Dawn mentioned that they also published a much shorter and I'm sure much less labor-intensive and expensive update, and then they go back into the full. So, my personal opinion is that while there's some risk that you lose momentum in the interim years, if you can do things to guard against that by being active in the ways that Vital Signs sort of indicate in the interim year. So I actually think it can be a good idea and an appropriate course of action for very small foundations.
We don't have any more questions yet. So if anyone else has any, get them in. Nope, not yet.
Okay, so Marla, why don't we close there, and I'm going to get to work on these slides because it's actually mid-afternoon here in Ottawa, so that I can share them. And I expect that I will get a few direct communications over the next few days from people, and I welcome that.